And I think today's topic is going to be enlightening and exciting. We do have a lot of time for Q&A and socializing afterwards, so please stay around for that. But again, thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the talk. I'll turn it over to Ross.
Thanks, Miley. Aloha kakayaka kako. I am Ross Wilkham. I am the Director of Alumni and Parent Engagement here at Mid-Pacific. I've been in the position now for about 7-8 months, and in that time I've been able to work closely with the administrations of all the schools, and we came up with a novel idea. Instead of fewer, larger engagements, how about more smaller engagements where folks can get a chance to ask the questions that are important to them. And Mr. Lee has been so accommodating for us in his first year with the school, and so we want to thank him for his time. But this is the time to ask those questions that you might not be comfortable asking in a larger setting. So we hope you enjoy it, and this is number 2 of 3, so There'll be another opportunity again this spring.
Looking forward to it.
And with that, middle school, high school principal Stephen Lee.
Thank you so much. All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thrilled to be here. And this is a follow-on to the parent coffee that we had in November, which I think was a great success, where our main purpose was just to introduce ourselves. So you know us now, and it's time to get into some real meat. So today our topic is deeper learning, and as you already know, great schools are great because of teams and teamwork. So we have a lot of people in the room who care deeply about your students and who have been doing the hard work of advancing deeper learning in every classroom and every program that we have here. So I'm just going to go over meeting objectives and meeting norms. I'm going to be brief, and I'm going to hand it over to some of our experts. So meeting objectives, I want to very briefly feedback your feedback from the previous meeting. And then also, we're going to take some time to define deeper learning. So we use this catchphrase. What does it mean? We'll look at that first, set the stage. Then we're going to take a deep dive into 2 of the many places where deeper learning shows up on our campus. We have some leaders from fantastic programs, including MPX, Mid-Pacific Exploratory, as well as the Mid-Pacific School of the Arts. So I'll let them introduce themselves at their portions of the presentation. Afterwards, we want to take plenty of time to ask and answer your questions and to get to know each other. So meeting norms, same as last time. We will be kind in kind of discussing these things, but we also want you to be honest. Ask hard questions, ask the questions that are really on your heart. We want you to deeply understand the program here and what we're doing with your kids. We'll be solutions focused. If there are any sort of concerns or questions that come up, we'll talk about what we can do to address them. We'll share airtime, and we'll start and end on time. All right, so in terms of feedback, here's just 3 pieces of feedback from last time. We do read your feedback, it matters. So the first thing was that people really thought it was important that we opened a platform for future communication. And indeed, I've had many one-to-one small group conversations with people who attended the first coffee. That was the hope. So thank you for reaching out to me. Thank you for continuing the conversations that began with the group. Also, what was said last time is we'd love to receive more organized information from the school. We took that on board. We took that to heart. We did follow up and provide information a bit further in advance regarding the key dates, not only for the 25-26 school year, but also 26-27. That happened because of your feedback, so thank you for it. And then also need more time for talking today. Miley's going to help us with staying on track. So if she holds up a sign, it's for us as presenters, just to make sure that we have enough time. So we're dedicated, and we're going to do that today. So having said that, it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, my friend, Ms. Kim Rowley, who is our Assistant Principal for Academics. She's going to talk with us about what deeper learning is. Please give a warm welcome to Kim.
Thank you. Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy that you made the time to come out this morning. I see lots of familiar faces, and I'm with lots of sweaters, too. I like all the sweaters. Good to see you. So some of the questions that we hope to answer today are, what is deeper learning at Mid-Pacific? We're looking at also, how does it look like? What does it look like in the classroom? How does it impact your students? How is it different from when we were growing up, when we showed up for our test with our little sharpened pencil and took a 2-hour test and then went home and immediately evacuated that from our mind? You may remember that. And then how teachers are prepared for deeper learning. So deeper learning is not confined to one singular approach. You're going to see it across our campus from K through 12. You'll see it in many of the different approaches that we use at Mid-Pacific with our MPX program, which you're going to hear about shortly, MPSA, Reggio Emilia in elementary school, the IB program. You will see that across our campus. It's not so much about the approach. It's about the intentional design, the thoughtful execution, and the meaningful engagement with students. We want to see students thinking about their thinking, that metacognition piece of deeper learning. This is the Mid-Pacific definition for deeper learning, and what I've done, if you'll allow me the liberty of doing, is I took it apart, I deconstructed it so you could see the pieces of it. And I wanted to share with you what our leadership did on Monday. We had a group of leaders, high school leadership, program heads across the MPSA School of the Arts, middle school curricular leaders, elementary leaders, and we were here in this very room on Monday. And we talked about deeper learning. We looked at a rubric for what deeper learning looks like in your classroom. We went out to visit 25 classrooms across the campus so that our leadership could see exactly what it looks like in the classroom and provide feedback to administration. I wanted to mention that there has been sort of that mindset that the only way to a good academic program is to take a test. And I'm going to push back on that because we see our students working in the classrooms, engaged in the classrooms. I wanted to mention our IB program again in that we have a very strong international baccalaureate program that has been at this school since 1986. It's an internationally recognized program that our students do very well in. Our 6-year pass rate is 90%. 87% of both juniors and seniors are taking at least one IB classes. Many are taking 3, 4, 5, and 6 or more IB classes in their schedule, and they're doing well. This is an international program, so they're judged against the standard, the international standards. But IB isn't just one test, just like MPX is not one test. It's about that engagement with students, getting them to think about their thinking, to work on collaborative projects. Just one quick anecdote. I'm waiting for Miley to show me. One quick anecdote. When I talk to students that are out in the wild after college and in their careers, they're saying that the kind of work that they're doing in their work environment is that collaborative approach. They're working together. They're communicating, they're doing public speaking, and they're coming back. I actually had a message from a former Mid-Pacific student last week, and he was reaching out saying, I love that Mid-Pacific prepared me to be a world-ready learner, which is really, really important. We do have 29 IB classes, and I think that's important to say because there's so many choices for your students to follow their passions. We want our students to be lifelong learners, just like you. We're always learning. We want students to dig into their passion-driven pursuits. We want them to be engaged with their community. You're going to hear from our good friend Greg Kaneko in just a moment about the MPX program and how MPX students are engaged in their learning. They're engaging in reflecting on their learning, and they're also engaged with the community. So Greg is going to share with us some of the community projects that we're doing. This quote that Kupuho Academy shared with me, which I think is really important, we don't learn from experience just doing things. We learn from reflecting on our experience. I think that's really powerful. Taking that time to reflect on your learning. That's part of the MPX approach. It's part of the MPSA approach. It's part of the IB approach. You will see that throughout your classes at Mid-Pacific. Mid-Pacific MPX program has been in existence at Mid-Pacific since 2010, and their strong and fearless leader, Greg Konecko, has been leading them since 2019 and really engaging with deeper learning with his MPX students. It was now my great pleasure to present my good friend, Greg Konecko.
It's really weird to talk into a microphone that isn't
Yeah.
being a microphone. Yeah, it's for the camera. Also with me is Henry Hale. He's our 9th grade humanities teacher in the MPX program. So he's gonna help me present today. So this is our this is at senior camp. We got all of our four MPX students together and took a group picture. This is them, super awesome students. Very, very proud of them and where they are headed off to very soon. Couple of objectives for us today is, number one, inform families what the MPX program is. There's a lot of good information and misinformation out there about the program, and we're working hard to make sure families are correctly and fully informed of what our program is. Immediately, is the program easy? No, it's not. Our students will tell you it is not easy. Is it fun? Yes, but not necessarily easy. Are students prepared for 11th grade and the world after? Absolutely. And hopefully we'll show some of that to you guys today. We're also going to connect it to deeper learning and its role at Mid-Pacific. What is MPX all about? It's a 9th and 10th grade program. Currently, we have about 45 9th graders in the program and 30 10th graders. MPX covers 4 of their 7 classes in a cohort model. So students are grouped together. They stay in those cohorts for the year. 2 of their classes are humanities. In 9th grade, it's World Civ and English. World Civilization and English. In the science side, STEM, it's biology, engineering, and technology. 10th grade humanities is U.S. history and English. The STEM is chemistry, engineering, and technology. We have teacher teams. We'll talk a little bit about that. Henry works very closely with Dr. Luong, the STEM teacher. I work very closely with Chris Falk. We team plan all the time. And you'll see how that creates an integrated experience. Is MPX rigorous? MPX covers the exact same content standards and learning outcomes as standard. We work together, figure out, in science it's NGSS, English and history has learning outcomes. We follow what they do. We just approach it differently. Required to read similar amounts. In the past, we've read similar novels, but as MPX likes to select reading tailored to our curriculum. MPX students have the opportunity to go deeper into topics. MPX students have opportunities to make connections within the classes through integration and also out in the community. We'll show you some examples of that. Approach to learning. Sorry, Henry, that was your slide, huh? Approach to learning. Basically, teachers develop authentic experiences built around the content standards. So we get together and think about what do we want our students to do, and then we take a look at our content standards and how do we build those into the experience. For example, instead of just learning about the lawmaking process, we actually had students propose legislation in the past. We worked with Senator Glenn Wakai. He took the kids throughout the process. We got our bill to the final step, and then it was voted out. So we integrate all the time. Teachers work together, not just within STEM and humanities, but projects are combined together. We're experiential, collaborative. Those are probably, there's probably 3 connections to deeper learning that we can say we do is students collaborate all the time. We integrate our topics, and we also work out in the community. What are some core foundations of our program? Experiential, building core standards into student experiences. It's collaborative, student-centered. We try to focus on developing skills, integration. We're going to say that over and over again. We're going to talk about community partners in a moment. We focus on rigorous academics. And we love our students to be busy designing and building stuff. Henry's going to talk about assessment strategies.
Yeah, and just continuing about the rigorous academics, I just want to make it really clear that it's really important to me as an MPX teacher, particularly of humanities, which covers both the English and social studies, that students leave MPX with a very solid foundation in reading and writing. And so they're reading 5 novels in 9th grade. We try to find as much overlap in the novels with standard, just so there is that kind of common base of knowledge. But we also select novels that are going to make those connections and reinforce what they're learning on the social studies side. So, for example, in social studies right now, we're learning about the rise of dictators throughout history and when democracy works, when democracy breaks down. And students are also reading the book Lord of the Flies, where it's very relatable. The students love it. And at the same time, there's all of these interesting connections that we can make. So MPX is really about working together across disciplines so that there's more and more connections that students are making throughout all of the classes. And the more they make those connections, the more those connections reinforce each other, and the more engaged they are, and the better that they learn the material. Speaking to the rigor, it's really important to me and to Mr. Porter, the other humanities teacher, and Chris Falk, the other humanities teacher, that students are able to write a very coherent and persuasive thesis paper. So we know that they're going to need that skill in pretty much every humanities class they take moving forward. So right from the get-go, I take my responsibility very seriously, especially as a 9th grade English teacher within MPX, is that students are able to write a very structured, well-structured body paragraph, well-structured thesis paper. We try to make it interesting by making the structure really clear, so students see that it's not just something that's you're born with, the ability to write well, but really there's a plan that you can apply to it. And it actually connects to STEM in a way, and I've worked with Dr. Luong, the STEM teacher, to have students build structures which parallel the structure of a thesis paper. So for example, like a tower, and how the pinnacle would be like your thesis, but it's supported by evidence, and it's glued together. The bonds are the evidence and interpretation. So really, we start out by looking at what are the standards, what do students really need to learn. We actually sometimes draw a physical Venn diagram and look at what's the overlap that we can find between our different content areas, so there's those connections, but also between students' interests, their passions, who are the community partners we could reach out to make it an authentic learning experience, and where's that overlap with the disciplinary standards that's all students across standard, MPSA, MPX, that all students need to learn. I'm also an IB psychology teacher, so a lot of students end up in IB psychology. So the assessment strategies there in IB psychology, it includes, or in IB classes in general, includes projects, but certainly also includes more traditional testing. All IB psychology students have to take the IB exam. It's a 2-day exam, totals 3 hours. There's a lot of content they need to learn. So it is important that students are also learning how to prepare for those kind of tests starting in 9th grade. And so there are content tests that I'm having students do in MPX in addition to the project-based hands-on deliverables. But speaking to assessments, when students create a deliverable, whether it's something very hands-on, like building a shelf for a homeless shelter, or building or creating an infographic, or giving a presentation, we also look at what part of this assessment are students really proving to us that they have learned the content, they have learned the material, that they're not just presenting a physical thing. And the physical thing really helps to motivate the students, and it's something that's evidence of their learning and how it fits into the real world, such as building an aquaponic system for a homeless shelter, for example. But students are also writing reflective papers explaining how does this aquaponics project or that they've created, how does that help build community and help solve some of the food security needs within this homeless shelter. So, and they're tying that to some of the statistics we're learning about homelessness. So the idea is that yes, they're creating a deliverable, but we're also thinking about assessments where they're demonstrating what they learned through the project in more traditional ways. Assessments, as I said, they can run from tests to quizzes because we know that students are going to have to take tests and quizzes in their future classes. But we also emphasize things that allow students to practice real-world skills like debating. When I saw students, high school students debating, I personally wasn't involved in debate team in high school, but when I saw students at other schools debating, I was just so impressed by how they were able to think on their feet. And I thought this is such an important skill in the real world, to be able to think critically, to not only communicate your opinions, but also back it up with evidence, and also to interact with other people's opinions and critique their logic and sources of evidence as well. So we brought in debate into the MPX classes, and students get really excited. They like the competitive aspect. They love that it's dynamic, that in the moment they're thinking on their feet. And it's also a great way to have students learn and demonstrate their understanding of whatever the content is that they need to learn for that particular unit. Whether it be this quarter, they'll be debating whether democracy is the best system of government. They'll be debating communism versus capitalism, for example. So they're learning a tremendous lot, but they're also learning to see both sides of every issue. Yeah.
Integral part of our program is we build community partnerships. Some of these we've been working with them for many, many years. He'eia Fish Pond we've been working with for 6-7 years now. Mari's Garden even longer. But anytime we can get out in the community and our students are doing real work, the end product means something. I mean, that's kind of deeper learning in its essence, right? Is the work is real. But we worked with the zoo. The zoo is awesome, and I'll share some projects later on, and you can see what we do with the partners. Yeah. This is a big question we always get: is are our students prepared for 11th grade or thereafter? Everything that we found is the answer is a pretty strong yes. Our students, we track them. We look at them through the IB program. Some of them choose to do the full IB certificate. Almost all of them will take at least 2 IB courses. We talk to them. We track college acceptances. Our students excel in the IB program. 30% of our students, on average, do complete the certificate. Students report they're well prepared for 11th grade. They have the knowledge and skills needed to advocate for themselves and thrive as learners. We have an impressive list of college acceptances. Students learn intrinsic motivation and have a clear plan for the future. Because our project work is deep and engaging, our students feel like they have a lot to say in their college applications, when they write their essays. I was just talking to some 2019 grads the other night, and they're in the professional world, and they said they actually in their interview for the job they currently have, they actually talked about their experience in MPX because it was so rich and engaging. So these are, I track colleges. I ask the college counselors for a list every year of all of our colleges our students get into. Okay, I got 5 minutes. Connection to deeper learning. Kind of mentioned this already. This is some of our current community outreach. But the ninth graders have been working with Malama Manoa. We'll show that project in a little bit. We try to do presentations of learning to parents and community on a semester or yearly basis. We do a lot of community service. We've been trying to get more into community service data collection and analysis. We see a very large opportunity for our students there. Deeper learning is kind of normal for MPX. It's what we do. It's not something we try to do. It's part of our program. A big one is a foundation of deeper learning is taking previously learned knowledge and applying it to a new novel situation. We do that all the time. This was a Genki Ball project. Can I just run through it, Henry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Malama Manoa reached out to us and asked, hey, we've got this idea that we want to try Genki Balls in Manoa Stream. Can you help us? So we said, sure. Basically what it was is the students engaged with the Alawai project. They went down, they got to throw some balls in the water and see the process. They made Genki Balls. And then their plan was they would test the Genki Balls in our spring, Wailele, see how that worked, and then propose an action plan for Malama Manoa for the Manoa Stream. And they did that. And so this is a wonderful application of science skills, possible application to Manoa Stream. I don't know where they're at with the project currently. So, but super awesome. They got to present in front of some professionals. Kurt Caldwell said it was the best student presentation he's ever seen. So, pat ourselves on the back. Yeah. And then at the end of this, I just have a whole bunch of projects that we've done throughout the years. We worked with the zoo for 2 projects. Students designed banners that actually went up at the zoo. I think they're still around, in fact. We did podcasts. This was a lockdown project during COVID. We couldn't go anywhere, but we still could work with the community. So Heia Fish Pond, we do service work. The big project is they do fishing lures. Students design fishing lures to test at the stream, at the pond, I'm sorry. These are some of our banners at the zoo. And just lots and lots of projects that we've done for many, many years that are amazing. Yeah, but I think that's about it. That's what we got. And then I think questions and answers afterwards.
We're gonna have ample time
Yep.
for Q&A.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Do I just go until I find MPSA?
Until you find me.
Oh, this is Henry's project? Yeah. Okay.
There we
All
go.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Schwartzwalder, and I am the Executive Director of the Mid-Pacific School of the Arts. It is my pleasure to be here with you this morning to talk a little bit about how deeper learning to jazz band and art history and beginning hula and advanced ballet. So we have something for everyone. And although on paper it looks like we have a huge, diverse repertoire of classes, there is one common thread that runs through everything that we do in the School of the Arts, and that is the thread of deeper learning. So what do I mean by that? in the School of the Arts, regardless of the arts discipline, whether it's dance, hula, music, theater, visual, digital arts, all of our courses require our students to use critical thinking, problem-solving skills. They have to collaborate very often, think creatively. They have to be self-reflective and also somewhat self-directed. They also focus on how to communicate with others with respect. And when you put all of this together, you come up with a skill set that is truly valuable in the real world, both in college and beyond. So now that I've talked a little bit about, in general, what it looks like, I'm going to jump into some examples of how that shows up in each of our programs. So we're starting with dance. And as you've heard, collaboration is a really important part of deeper learning. And there was a really great example of this in the fall between our kindergarten class and some of our high school seniors. So it started when our kindergarten faculty approached our dance program head, Mr. Paul Maley. They had a very energetic class of kindergarteners who loved to move, but they needed to learn a bit more about how to collaborate and work together as a group. So together they came up with a series of 3 gatherings with our kindergarteners and some of our seniors in the contextual studies in dance class. And in the first one, well, actually in all of them, the goal was to work together to create a dance. So in the first session, a group of kindergartners were paired with a senior or a few seniors, and each kindergartner was asked to pick an animal and then develop a move based on that animal. And you can see some of them here. I think on the left, I think that was the alligator, and on the right is the axolotl, which I had to look up because I didn't know what that was. But the kindergartners knew. And so after each student had contributed a move, the senior helped to string them all together to create a dance that the students performed together as a group for each other, for their peers. And in a later session, the seniors came into their group with a set choreography. So they were trying to teach the kindergarteners a dance that they had created. And after they staged the dance, the group performed it, did it with their class, and all of a sudden they had a full-blown dance number. And what I love about this example is that it was a great example of deeper learning, not only for our kindergarteners, but also for our seniors. The kindergarteners were able to learn about listening to each other respectfully. They also worked together, not only to create a dance, but to help each other. Some students might have been a little shyer or couldn't think of a good move for their animal, and their peers really helped them to come up with something as a group. And for our seniors, it was a great leadership opportunity. They had to adjust their communication styles to work with kindergarteners. They also had to think on their feet. When they came in with their choreography, some of it was too difficult for the students that they had in their group, so they had to pivot on the fly and come up with something else. So overall, it was a great example of deeper learning. Hearing the seniors talk about the experience afterwards, it was clear that they really gained a lot from that exercise. Now moving on to our hula program. In the fall semester, some of our hula students were given a project to create a lei hulu, which is a traditional feather lei. And they were taught the basic instructions of how to build it, but it was way more than a crafting project. It was about the skills that they had to learn along the way. It was a project that took a long time for them to complete. Some of them took weeks, some of them took months, and the students had to figure it out on their own. They had to problem solve in real time. If it was looking weird, if it was looking lumpy, or the design wasn't coming out, they had to figure out how to shift gears and make it work. They also worked together quite a bit to help each other. If one of them had a problem that another one had experienced previously, they really worked together as a group. And at the end, they had a beautiful ceremony before our fall dance concert to complete the lei, and they performed wearing them in the concert. And it was clear, talking to the students afterwards, that they had a huge sense of accomplishment from going through that task. It wasn't just, look at what I made. It was about what they learned, how to persevere, how to problem solve, how to work together. So another great example of deeper learning. Moving on now, sorry, I'm flying through, I'm trying to keep good time. So we have, moving on to our music program. For our winter concert that was in November, all of our students had to learn a brand new piece. And anyone who has played an instrument before knows that it takes a lot of rehearsal time and prep and work behind the scenes. You have to rehearse by yourself. You have to listen to what you're doing and know if something is sounding off. And if it is sounding off, you have to try and figure out how to fix it, whether it's fixing your handhold or how your tempo or anything like that. And the students had to work together in class. They worked in sections, so all of the violins would play together, all of the trumpets in the band, and they would listen to each other and help work together until they sounded on key. And at the end of the concert, the students gathered together in their class to listen to the video from their concert, and they reflected on what sounded good, what sounded like it could have needed work, and they talked about how they could improve going forward. Okay, so next, our theater and film program. So in December, our high school did a production of Antigone, and right before a performance, it wasn't even the first performance, it was a later performance, I saw an impromptu rehearsal right before the show with one of our cast members. She wanted to revisit one of the scenes and try different things out, so she was working with the director as well as her scene mate. And it was really interesting to watch because she was saying how after going through the play a few times in performance, I want to think differently about how I'm doing this. I don't think it aligns with my character. Could we try something different? And the director was providing a little bit of feedback, but it was really up to the student and how she felt she should play that role. And she was, reflecting, she was thinking differently about how she could approach it, and she was also working with her scene mate. They had a dialogue together about how, well, if I changed this, how would that affect your character? Does that align with your thinking? So it was a really good give and take to see how they negotiated that together. Okay, and then finally, our visual and digital art program. So in the fall semester, we had a guest artist come. His name was George Willard. He's a local artist. He came to produce an exhibition here, and he also taught a series of master classes for our students. And it was a great experience for our students. I have this quotation up here from one of the students who was reflecting on what she had learned. And she said, I'll just do the second section. She said, because for a long time, I always thought I should make art because I need to, or because it's an assignment, or I have to get it done, or just part of the process. He taught us that the process is what is beautiful about art, and that the outcome is important too, but it's really enjoying what you're doing. And that, I thought, was a great example of deeper learning. She was able to reflect. She thought differently about her own art practice. She saw it as something that extended beyond the classroom, beyond the particular homework assignment. So, going back to deeper learning in the School of the Arts, I hope it's clear from some of these examples, and there are so many, but that's just 5, I had to pick 5, of how these arts courses teach students to be world ready. It teaches them to think critically, to problem solve, to work together, to collaborate, to communicate. And when you put all these together, it sets the stage, sets the stage for college and career readiness, and that is regardless of what field they choose to go into. We have some alumni who become professional artists. We have others who go into completely different fields, but no matter what they choose to do with their lives, these are skills that you can apply to thrive in the real world, no matter what path you choose. Okay, and with that, I will move it on to the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I just want to thank, again, our presenters for sharing of their expertise and of the just wonderful things that are happening on our campus. I hope it gives you many things to feel proud of, actually. That's a goal of these sessions, is how hard our team is working to give your kids outstanding learning experiences, and you feel good about it.